Hi, I'm Rosie. I've been a parent for almost 30 years. If I could go back in time and parent my children again, is there anything that I would do different? And the answer to that is most certainly yes. I'd like to share with you the things that I have learned along the way, mostly from making mistakes. Whether you're planning to have children, if you are already pregnant, if you've just had a newborn, or if you're further down the line, I'm sure whatever I'm going to share will be relevant. No one warns you what parenting involves. It really is not for the faint-hearted. So here we go. I think the first thing that stands out to me is, even before being pregnant, even before thinking about having kids, what is your mental health state? Are you stable from day to day? Do you have trauma from your childhood? Do you have issues with your parents? Are you close to family? Is there anything that stands out? There might be other things that have happened to you in your life. You really need to think about that stuff, because when you suddenly produce a little human being, everything that you are about is going to be passed on to your child, whether you like it or not. That's how it works. So I would, if I was going back, I would have dealt with a lot of my issues. I would have went and had therapy, go get counselling, read self-help books, read anything that is going to awaken you to what really goes on in your inner world, because that is really going to have a huge effect on the children that you bring into this world. Yeah, that would be my number one, which not everybody wants to do that. Even if you think you're in good shape, like mentally, emotionally, go and talk to someone. Find out for real that there's not anything hidden there that you are not aware of. Even speak to your partner, ask each other if you have a partner. Is there anything that you think I haven't dealt with? I mean, be careful, because that could start maybe an argument between you if that's a touchy area. But I think it's so important. If you want to start out to give your children the best possible chance, how nice would it be to go have therapy or do counselling and find out that you're actually in quite good shape? But the thing to remember is, you are not having a child or children for yourself, for your sake. You're having a child for the child's sake. So when you bring a baby into this world, you are serving them. You are being there for them. You have to be unconditionally available to them, not the other way around. A lot of the time I think we forget that. Your child isn't asking to be born. You are making that choice. It's kind of a gift for your child if you get yourself in good shape. And it just means that the journey that you will be on for a long time, if not for the rest of your life really, the journey will just be so much more enjoyable. That's what I've learned. As I say, I've had a lot of difficult times throughout. My oldest son is 29 years old, and I've got an 18-year-old boy, pretty much a 10-year gap. And yeah, I have experienced a lot of heartache, a lot of difficulty, and more so recently getting feedback from my adult children telling me and telling their dad that we didn't always get it right. And I had every intention always to be the best mum I could ever be, and I put a lot of effort every single day. I was always actively being a good mum. But something else to realize, you never ever will get it right, and I would say welcome to the Imperfect Parents Club, because we all belong there. Nobody gets it right, but you can do your utmost. And I just think, get yourself in the best possible state at the beginning of the journey, so that the least amount of damage will be passed on to your children, intentionally or unintentionally. I never intentionally set out to fall short for my kids, but it happened, and I'm coming to terms with that, because I just truly was surprised, shocked even, that I didn't get it right, because I really put the time in every single day to be there, but I wasn't always there in the way that they needed. So these are some of the things that have come up or came up over my 30 years. So once you've done therapy or look at your emotional well-being and your partner, making sure that, yeah, you're not ever going to have maybe the perfect relationship, but you need to be with someone that is really on the same page. And I think an important one is that you might not ever think about, or just you assume perhaps, that discuss with your partner, how do they intend to parent your children, what discipline do they believe in. Often we don't even consider that. You just decide, I'm going to have children and let's start trying for a child. And what kind of rules do you want to have in place? Do you want them to go to like a Steiner school or a public school? Or it's really worth having a discussion. Again, perhaps get some information from elsewhere. YouTube is a great place to get a lot of help, and discuss with your partner, how is this going to look, how is this going to be, because if you're not on the same page, you are going to go through a whole lot of bother. You're going to have a lot of conflict potentially, and let's face it, you do not want to be starting out on this journey from that place. So you're pregnant, you might have 7 months, 4 months to go before, God willing, the birth. I would say really honor the time that you have to yourself, that solitude, being able to just sit in a peaceful room and have no demands on you. You might want to prepare the baby's room, buying equipment, getting yourself so prepared for what's to come. And that's great. Definitely do some of that. But just realize that in a few months, your life will never ever be the same again. You are never going to be responsible for yourself only. You are going to be responsible for your child. And when I say your child, I think it's really important to realize or view it now as you're having a human being. Because when you say baby, it feels like it's only for a much shorter time, but you're not. Basically, once that human being is born, it's all on you and your partner. That is your responsibility pretty much for the rest of its life and yours. So let that in, really let that soak in. And the time that you've got now before any children come along is so precious. Do the things that you'd love to do, things that you and your partner would love to do. This is the time, because once children come along, it's not going to happen, or it's certainly not going to happen as easily. So when preparing for your child to come along, keep it simple. There's so many products out there, there's so many different things that you can buy. And I remember when I was in my 20s, the pressure put on you to buy things and to get all the different equipment and get so prepared, and you almost feel like you're not being a good parent if you don't get all this equipment. So you walk into one of those shops and you're bombarded by 1,000 different items. I say keep it simple, and even buy some of this stuff perhaps once your baby comes along. You'll start to work out what is important to you, what you do need. The next thing I'd like to mention is breastfeeding. When I had my first son, I got mastitis, which is, the milk ducts get blocked and kind of infected. It was really bloody painful and awful. I tried for about 2 weeks to persevere breastfeeding, but the pain was so intense, I could not do it. And I felt like such a failure. It was awful. I remember the midwife at the time when I was at home with my brand new baby, huge, big, massive swollen boobs, in agony. And she was saying, no, you have to keep going, you can't give up. But I don't think she could acknowledge or really see the pain and suffering that I was going through, and the emotional upset that was being caused by feeling so guilty that I wasn't able to do this thing that's meant to be so natural. So after about 2 weeks, I couldn't continue, and I bottle fed my first son. And as much as I still to this day, yeah, I would much have preferred that it was, that I could breastfeed, the relief that I felt at the time was immense. And the other thing I think is that when you're going through that much stress, trying to breastfeed, the stress hormones that are running through your body, then feeding your baby with all those stress hormones that will be in the milk, that's not going to be as good for your baby anyway. That helped me feel a little bit relieved about the fact that I couldn't do it. 10 years on, and I had my second child in my 30s. Perhaps I was a bit more prepared, or I was more determined, but yeah, I was able to breastfeed with him. But it was kind of interesting that with the first child I couldn't do it, but I got to have it with the second. So look, if you don't get it the first time, you might actually get to experience it at some point. But either way, whatever is the least amount of stress for you and the least amount of stress for the baby is the utmost important part. You have to take the pressure off. So another area that is quite contentious is, do you leave your baby to cry? So you maybe put them down to sleep in their cot, maybe in their own bedroom, and they wake up, they cry. Do you leave your child to cry it out and to obviously over time probably stop crying? My first son, I did that. I followed the books, listened to the professionals, and I would leave my son to cry, and it just broke my heart. I didn't enjoy it one bit. It was awful. So looking back now, I would never have done that. The minute my baby was crying, I would have went and picked him up. I want to give him the message that you matter, I love you, and if I just leave my baby crying, the message that he's going to get is, I don't matter. My mum doesn't love me, because if she did, she would hear my cry and she would come and tend to my needs. For the young 23-year-old me, that was an awful time, a really, really bad experience, to repeatedly go through that. But at the same time, I did my best. But if you have that instinct that you don't want to leave your baby in another room or to leave it crying, then don't do it. You do what feels right for you, no matter what. So another area that if I could go back in time and reparent my children or my youngest son, that would be, I would never have taken him to daycare. So again, look, people have busy lives. Most people nowadays, both parents work because they have to, cost of living, all that stuff. If you can afford financially to not work for the first 5 years of your child's life, I would 100% recommend that. And again, I know it's nowadays as well, it's really not perhaps what people are doing, but that's something that I would definitely have done second time round. With my two sons, my first son, I was fortunate enough to stay at home for 7 or 8 years, and that was just so fabulous. It felt so right. Again, I was there. I could be there for him, even though sometimes I would feel maybe family or friends, that maybe didn't approve that I was just at home, being just a mum, even though, wow, it's not just a mum, it's one of the most important jobs you'll ever do in your life.